My name is Anna Winningham. I was on the crisis response squad and then later became the supervisor of that squad.
My name is Robert DeMiguel. I worked for the San Francisco Police Department before I went to CBI. I worked the violent crimes unit and worked on the gang unit.
Patrick Conley, and I'm a retired FBI agent and spent the majority of my career as a SWAT team member, SWAT team leader, eventually a SWAT commander.
My name is Karina Terrence. I've been a police officer for about 9 years. I started in patrol and I was a crime scene investigator after that. Then I became a major crimes detective.
I'm Jim Botting. I'm a retired FBI agent. I spent 12 years in the SWAT program, and I was a hostage negotiator for about 15 years. I also worked kidnapping and high-value fugitives.
I'm Mark Llewellyn, retired FBI agent. I was the supervisor of the violent crime program, specializing mainly in murder for hire, extortions, kidnappings.
I'm from the CBI. I'm here to help you.
Little things mean a lot in law enforcement.
You always want to serve the accuracy of anything that you do. You don't want to patronize the people that you're representing.
Important, not so much to get the fine detail technical stuff right, but just the kind of general attitude of cops and the way they approach cases.
We taught them how to enter doors. How do we hold a weapon? How to just stand when you're interviewing someone. All of those little things from interview techniques all the way through handcuffing and weapon retention.
I think it's those little details that really, really pay off.
You wanted Connor dead. You grabbed him and then made it look like a child murderer did it. Which part are we misunderstanding?
Cases are often broke by getting the right interview. You have, 6 or 7 directions to go in, and I think you see that on the show.
So much of what they do is foggy. They're never quite sure whether they got the right person or what the motive was. So many crimes go unsolved. Everything takes time.
They do a very good job of capturing the investigative steps that one would follow on an actual investigation.
So you don't necessarily have to walk in with this idea of, okay, let's figure things out. This is your office, you're comfortable here, and let's figure out what happened.
In real life, you're not going to work a homicide every week.
But when there's a big case, everybody works it together. And those are kind of the ones we all live for.
I don't think you can be a policeman for any length of time unless you have a real passion for it.
It's not a job, it's not a career, it's a life. And when the phone rings, you go.
It's work. I gotta take this.
You look marginally rested.
Scene management is always a crisis because you never know what you have, and there's a lot of things happening.
It's one of those central balancing acts of the show.
The Mentalist does a good job approaching their homicides.
But once you get out into the field, you don't want to screw up.
I think that in the beginning it was more of trying to observe all that was around us, walking through the crime scene tape, walking onto a crime scene. The instincts that you get when you do it over and over and you learn what to look for become automatic.
If you're the first on a crime scene, everything is sacred. You've got to be aware that every single piece of the crime scene is in effect a piece of a puzzle.
Forensics found the kid's phone in the bushes over there.
So there's a kind of respect for that area straight away.
Typically I had to step under it and start working with the responding officers who were first on scene. So that is very credible.
Now, 4 years later, this is sort of our office.
And here we are.
We are absolutely comfortable being in that crime scene.
Every now and then you'll see where they'll have a homicide and you'll have the autopsy results in a matter of minutes. That's not what happens in real life.
Show.
Coroner came back with a preliminary
Report.
larynx was crushed by a blow or heavy pressure, no water in the lungs.
The compression nature of show business creates the illusion that cases can be resolved very quickly.
Coroner investigators report the TOD between 8 at night and 2 in the morning.
And that's the challenge you face, to come up with something that's creative and plausible.
James Panzer was killed by Tom Mayer, the father of the first victim.
I'm not certain about that.
When I first came in the FBI, it was a good old boys club. It was a bunch of white guys. They were all veterans.
Get inside, we'll put you to work.
Thank you, sir.
We have seen more women come into the field over the years, and you see more women in supervisory roles these days.
I don't know that sexism is the problem that it used to be, but acquiring command authority is something that anyone would have a problem with.
In my experience as the crisis response squad supervisor, one of the main components of that squad was the SWAT team. And You do have to deal with very strong male characters.
And the idea of ordering people around and trying to have sort of the, an authoritative air when you're looking up at somebody is really, difficult to do.
You people just don't...
Hi, boss. Under arrest.
I think the way to make people take you seriously is to show that you're taking it very seriously.
I said let's go.
My exposure and things that I have done in my career, both as an Army officer and as the supervisor of the Crisis Response Squad, were very much like Teresa Lisbon.
The most important thing is that people in positions of power not lose their temper, because I think that's a loss of power.
I identify with her character because sometimes you can't walk in like you're 6'2", 280. You want to, but you just can't.
What the hell is going on?
She kind of personifies everyone's sense of striving to measure up.
Disappointing, Lisbon. I thought you might push back a little. Guy called me a circus act.
Hey, the man is grieving. You push back.
Okay, I will.
Don't you dare.
Seeing her struggle there is part of the fun and the pathos of that character.
You're Matilda's killer.
We antagonize a lot of people.
Stay there.
My character's way of dealing with it has been to sort of ignore it, which makes the other person feel powerless, I think, which is the objective.
It's very, very clear who's in control of that situation. She's got her gun in her hand. She's going in the door first a lot of the time.
Lisbon does a great job being a supervisor in that aspect where she knows what's going on in each individual agent. She knows them personally as well as professionally.
It's like a parent. You have to know what's going on in the life of the people you're responsible for, but you don't necessarily take charge of every aspect of that.
You want to be able to protect the people that work for you.
One of the exchanges between Van Pelt and Lisbon, Lisbon says, okay, as your friend, do I need to worry about you?
I'm fine. All right. Well, is your boss any more of this? And we've got a serious problem.
Sometimes bosses have to turn a blind eye to things. Sometimes they have to engage, and sometimes they have to step back.
Her character is extremely believable. Her interaction with her squad is very believable.
That creep is a psychopath and he's guilty, and we are gonna make him say so. He cracked once already when he hit Jane. Let's make him crack again.
Okay.
In the past, it was a prerequisite for people that were in the military to walk into a law enforcement career.
You prove yourself in the ways that are presented to you. So he started out in gangs, then he was in the Army, and then he's found his place in law enforcement.
Tim looked like an athlete. He could handle himself. So I didn't have to worry about his movements.
He's very macho and tough, but there's a moral core to it.
Kimball's character is a little tightly wound, I would say.
There was this in his mouth.
His mouth?
There are people like that in law enforcement.
Feather. Now we're getting somewhere. Find out where this came from.
Came from his mouth.
I take my job very seriously, so I see that comparison between us.
His demeanor, the deadpan and the seriousness and this focus comes from is that there is that dedication to the job that I'm trying to get across.
That's what he cherishes about law enforcement.
He does not come off to me as your typical gangbanger.
He looks too clean-cut to me. I don't see enough battle scars on him.
The gang tattoos and the scars and these kinds of things don't necessarily need to be there for it to be believable and for it to be fun as a character detail.
To be honest with you, that's an extra hour every day in a makeup room getting his tattoos put on. But, artistic license.
Police, don't move!
Tim is very interesting because he learns up on the police work and he's interested in what is authentic and what's not authentic.
The way he held the weapon really is how we teach people to shoot from the Weaver stance. It was very well done and executed.
Thanks.
No problem.
Kimball shows crime scene management is usually like his character, pretty much by the book.
The way he deals with these things runs parallel to the way he thinks about his job. He is in control all the time. He is focused. He knows what's going on.
You're very invested in this man in iron face routine, aren't you?
His arrest techniques are well done, and his handcuffing techniques seem to be very well done.
Tim will tell you that he's the best handcuffer in the CBI team.
Give me yours!
I think everybody on this show hates handcuffing people. It is the bane of our existence.
It's one of those things that it's surprisingly difficult to do.
In the beginning, it was just a mess. But now, yeah, it's definitely gotten better. And now
Kimball definitely projects the confidence of a CBI agent in his role. He portrays that very well.
Cho is so stoic, but I think you've seen with his love affair with Summer and with, you know, the stuff with the addiction that the still waters run very deep.
It's about justice. It's not about necessarily following a rule book.
You got a warrant?
We don't need one. We just want a quick look around.
Let me check with my boss.
Tries to do that as much as he can, but if that's not possible, then he's going to go the other direction. You hear that? What? Sound of a struggle coming from inside the apartment.
Oh yeah, I do. Someone might be in danger.
Yeah.
My name is Agent Rigsby. This is Patrick Jane.
Rigsby's character is very credible. His intensity, his sense of duty, his sense of responsibility.
Owens, just because of his size alone, makes a good presence, makes a good law enforcement officer.
I guess 4 years in, there's the danger of actually feeling like you might be a policeman, you know, so I do have to restrain myself on a daily basis, you know, from arresting random members of the public.
Rigsby's an interesting case. He saw the pathos and the humor in the character immediately.
This is my first child. Wait, our first child?
Oh yeah, definitely our first. Yeah.
Our first child.
His approach to things and his directness is very credible. There's many agents who are that way.
His father was an outlaw biker. Nothing could be further from Rigsby's sensibility and approach to life than that kind of world.
I mean, if Dad did something where he was found guilty of a felony and put to jail, that doesn't necessarily preclude you from becoming a law enforcement officer.
That world of chaos and anarchy and aggression and might makes right is exactly what he's pushing against.
What I'm trying to represent is that it's a vocation, it's a calling, and it's more often than not an emotional calling.
We look out for each other, and it's not just physically, it's also kind of emotionally.
It's one of the most beautiful things you see when you talk to cops is that genuine love and the genuine unity that you get sometimes between partners.
Weapon secure. Yes.
I see that between Rigsby and Kimball Cho. You definitely see the camaraderie between the two and the sense that they do want to take care of one another.
Joe, you saved my life.
We went through a lot of doors together, and with the confidence that if you slowed down, the guy behind you would run off your back.
It's times like that that can only serve to reinforce that strong connection.
In those kinds of units or those teams that work together, it is so common to know everything about each other's lives, whether you want to or not.
We are a family that's living both its domestic and work life inside that bullpen.
Well, even when they have their difference and stuff, they come together and they support each other, which is absolutely essential in a law enforcement community.
There are a lot of similarities between the way I perceive the beginning of my career and the way I see Grace carry herself.
Grace Van Pelt is very realistic in her character, and I've had agents work for me and with me that were very much like Van Pelt.
She was meant to be a counterpoint to Jane's cynicism.
We can't even touch the scumbag.
World's full of scumbags we can't touch.
But anyone who spends time in law enforcement is going to get that sort of youthful idealism knocked out of them.
I feel pretty good, actually. I'm starting to enjoy shooting people. Gotcha.
And she's had it knocked out of her in a very sort of direct and personal way.
She kind of fell and learned her way as she went.
And she's been gaining confidence and strength and power and losing some of her naivety as it goes along.
Any new agent that's coming in, you need to put yourself in a position where it's recognized what your capabilities are, because otherwise it won't be known.
She's really come into her own this year in terms of standing up for what she believes in and for what's right, and really owning herself and not apologizing for who she is, and not taking any crap from anybody. Put your hands behind your back.
No!
Okay, I'll take it from here.
Van Pelt has occasionally used her feminine wiles to get stuff done.
Mr. Zuboff, are you ready for your massage?
But you always get the sense when she's doing it that this is not her wheelhouse.
You're under arrest for solicitation, sexual assault, assault on a police officer.
As far as interviewing and how she carries herself at the scene, yeah, she seemed pretty natural.
Anyone with a striking appearance, anyone who makes an impact when they walk into the room, so you
That's right.
pay attention to that person, is going to be useful.
I noticed in, I believe it was the Red Balloon episode, she was talking to the crazy power worker guy, and he was just going off on these stories.
As I was leaving, there was this black SUV, nearly ran me off the road.
Which reminds me of another funny story.
And that's so reminiscent of almost every interview I've ever done. It's where people just start to kind of, especially if they get comfortable with you, they start to want to just go off on tangents, and she did a good job of directing them back. And she's very passionate about her job, and she gets very emotionally invested, and sometimes it kind of spills over.
Thanks for your time.
Hey! Hey yourself.
She has some anger issues, I would say. I think it's the frustration and anger of betrayal. And it's the ultimate betrayal, to be betrayed by somebody that you love the most, and somebody that you really thought was gonna be there for you.
If I have to be honest, it's like for an actor, she's really good.
Confessions and interrogations can be very complex.
I think the key is to make them feel relaxed. Because the more relaxed someone feels, the more chance there is that there's going to be some kind of a slip up in demeanor or their behavior.
How did you know that I didn't have cancer?
You lacked an air of finality. Plus, you shaved your head, but your vanity prevented you from losing the eyebrows.
Deception is an accepted practice in interrogating.
You can do things to cause an individual to react.
I just remember the guy being big and staring him in the eye and sitting there with his hands crossed looking at him, and he wasn't going to give an answer, and he had the cards out, and he was laying the cards out, and he'd say, which one's the queen? And he lays them out, and the guy just stares at him. And he lays them out again, picks it up, shows him the queen.
There she is.
He lays it out again. The guy just looks at him. He picks it up, shows him the queen. I think the fourth time he lays them out, says,
where is she?
And the guy goes,
She's on the right.
I laughed because it's opening that door just a crack and responding to him, and you're starting to drag him along with you.
It's less about the card trick and more about the fact that I'm showing this guy some attention and sharing something with him.
How you do that?
He's establishing that rapport. You know, pretty soon this guy's going to be shuffling the cards, asking Patrick to pick out the queen.
Almost have it.
I've worked with several profilers, and the FBI has, on cases, and there's a lot of similarities between them and Patrick Jane.
He can do the read very well, and that's, of course, very, very important to an investigator.
He knows how to push buttons.
She isn't the killer. What are you playing at?
Eve's nonverbals are screaming innocence.
He's very confrontational.
Marcus Kuzmenko, more of a gentle lover or brute? But there's something that drives him, and that is justice. The puzzle is just, you know, that's just the way he's wired.
He's someone that's going to be able to ask questions outside the box without really the constraints that a law enforcement officer has to abide by.
Did you kill Archer Browning? I'll be talking to you from now on.
Sometimes you need that left field maverick input, you know, because from that comes inspiration. We don't just tolerate him, but there's a great affection for him.
He does it in the open. He does it with a crowd surrounding him.
Eve, CBI, quick question. You love your mom and dad?
And that's unusual for most criminal investigators.
I can sense authenticity in people. That doesn't mean that I can generally tell if they're lying, because some people are very, very good liars.
To have the ability to think outside the box and come up with creative ways to develop a case against a suspect, that's the strength of a good agent.
There's nothing a cop can bring to the table that a good criminal has not seen before. So to have someone who can come in on a completely different angle with a completely different approach to solving things is a huge asset, and they have to take the rough with the smooth.
When it comes down to law enforcement, everything has to be by the book.
He can get into situations that you can't.
Jane is like one of those sort of sneaky suitcases where there's a false bottom to it. And he's constantly setting up these false floors.
He has the ability to kind of manipulate people, and I think that's great.
When I click my fingers, Jack, you will open the safe with great ease and quickness.
As a law enforcement officer, you're not supposed to hypnotize your suspects. That would probably not play out very well in court.
Are you really trying to hypnotize me?
A source doesn't have to disclose the methodology that they used to get a response back.
I like playing the troublemaker. It's good.
When you have such a valuable asset who is not a cop, who does things that are not the way that cop would do, it's an incredibly valuable thing, and you have to decide how much of the downside you're going to deal with.
But as far as the skills he has and the way that he profiles and the conclusions he's able to make, and in the end, when they're right, I mean, how can you argue with that?
The environment that's created in CBI in a SWAT area and the bantering that goes back and forth, I think is very realistic.
Hey, Torque, still 20 short on Tuesday's dinner? Man up, my brother.
Yeah. We work in this crime-solving unit, but we're also a pseudo family as well.
There's just a lot of humor as the sort of antidote to all the stress.
You think you can outrun a tiger?
I don't have to. Just have to run faster than you.
If you're dealing with these abject horrors on a day-to-day basis, the only way you can get an emotional distance or an arm's length from them is to actually regard them sort of with a little bit of humor.
And the arson squad found traces of C4 in the debris. Guy never knew what hit him.
At least he was dead when, the shark ate him.
If you've got any kind of a bruise that can be rubbed raw, they'll find it.
I just found these on my desk with the note. Torque, try these lifts. That funny to you?
I got nothing to do with that, man.
These people work together, they spend a lot of time together, and that they assume, familial roles.
If you need anything, you can ask. You know that, right?
Yeah.
It creates teamwork. You bounce ideas off each other, which should result in a better end product.
Blood. So she was shot somewhere else. Killer thought she was dead, put her in the trunk.
But she's alive, and she opens the escape latch. Killer startled, he crashes the car.
When she gets out of the trunk, killer shoots her in the head here. That's why they only found one casing.
She's not in her uniform, so chances are she came from home.
Voila.
What I like about the television version captures what we do in real life.
With the exception of the nice office space they have. I think the team look like an investigative team.
The camaraderie, the way that the day can go and the way that the day can change and the way that you pair off, the way in the end when things go well and the handcuffs are on the right person.
There is a depth of passion there that you can feel when you watch the shows. They have a sense of justice that they're trying to achieve.
They go from receiving the information of the crime to the scene, to interviews, to witnesses, to suspects, to evidence, to confrontations, and then they work it all out and everybody smiles at the end. It's well done.
And in the end, they share that kind of pride together.
All in all, this show gets it right.
It gets a little ridiculous at times, but it's all part of the fun in the games.